Okay, so revision. I'm sorry. This marks the first of a series of revision classes. Today, inshallah, this is of course summer. Okay, I think I have to always start with this. You know, I have so many videos, and sometimes people confuse between summer and winter and spring. So this is summer, and this is, like I said, this is a revision class. Um, so the final exam is not this week; it's next week, right? So can you
Yes.
tell me when exactly it is? So if it's next
4th of
Monday.
August, Monday.
Monday, so not this, not tomorrow, the Monday after. Good, nice. Okay, fine. Let's talk about the format of the final exam and my expectations, and then we start the revision. Um, so as far as the content and the format are concerned, the exam is comprehensive. Comprehensive in the sense that everything we have covered together is part of the final exam. The things that we did and we were tested against in the midterm, and also the things after, which means that we have everything cover to cover. Introduction to or introductions to time periods, Othello, the Duchess of Malfi, Candide, the romantics, whether we're talking about Wordsworth or Shelley. So these are the things that will be with us. Again, as far as the format is concerned, the exam is normally divided into two parts. You have a short answer part and a long answer part. And the short answer part is normally give you 3 questions are required to attempt 2 of them. And then the um, long answer part, the essay part, we normally give you 3 questions and we ask you to do 2 of them, which means that you will end up writing 2 short answers and 2 long essays. Again, by now you know what I mean by a short answer, and by now you know that it's not going to be a small paragraph, right? So this is as far as the format is concerned. So again, 2 short answers and 2 long essays. Uh, how long is the exam? It's 3 hours, right? And 3 hours is too long, if you ask me. You have all the time there is to think, to outline, to think of an argument, a solid one, and then you are on your way towards writing very good, robust essays.
Doctor?
Can I finish, yeah, Hazar, and then give you
Okay.
the mic? Again, I'm stressing those 3 elements in your answers. They apply to my class and they apply to pretty much any class you took or you will take in the future. Clarity, relevance, and comprehensiveness. Comprehensiveness means that you need to read the question very thoroughly, underline the key words and concepts, and you start addressing those keywords and concepts. So this is comprehensiveness, شمولية. You don't write about an aspect and forget all the other aspects. You don't write too much on one aspect and too little in another. So you need to be comprehensive. You need um, to also be relevant. Relevant and relevance is very important. So relevance is about giving us what we want you to give. You don't, like I always say, and so sometimes people set their own questions. They know that the question is on and about Othello. They write everything they know and they don't know about Othello, and they put it on the page. This is obviously not acceptable. It's a sheer waste of time. And when you come and ask why I'm getting this, because I have written this, I have written for so very extensively, and I have, no, it's not about writing too much or writing too little for that matter. It's about writing comprehensively. It's about tackling the aspects of the question that we want you to tackle. So write all you want, but if your answer is not very relevant, you're not likely to get away with it, right? It's not about writing too much. Again, and it's not about writing too little. It's about writing in a comprehensive way. So again, relevance is very important. Again, relevance cannot happen unless you thoroughly understand and read the question. And clarity. Clarity is very important. Clarity in how you write, in what you write. Clarity with handwriting is very important. Many a time we have people who have very beautiful ideas, but their handwriting stands in the way. It doesn't mean that we give up on them or we don't read. We read very thoroughly, but it's very straining for the eyes. So you're not creating the right impression. You take what you deserve and perhaps a dash extra, but you don't normally leave your teacher happy if you can uh, write better handwriting and you're denying yourself this. So you're young, you still have time to work on your handwriting. If it's not neat, if it's not uh, clear. So these are things, you still have your 50 years ahead of you. I have my 50 years behind. So if people come and ask me to change my handwriting, I'm not likely to change. I won't be able to do it because, alas. But you, mashallah, you're young and you can do it. So clarity when it comes to your handwriting and clarity when it comes to your ideas. Flow, smoothness, seamless transition from one paragraph to another, coherence. So these are things, and this is what I call the suprasegmental part of the answer that you don't see. You are so focused on how much you have written. You're so focused on the mechanical aspects of the questions, the grammar, um, the accuracy of the spelling, and when you are ignoring a very important aspect, which is this idea of smoothness, coherence, flow. So these are things that you, of course, they come with time. I mean, you don't develop those nice uh, intangible things overnight, but you need to work towards them. You need to work very hard so that you can eventually attain them. It's about having this nuanced kind of answer. Okay, it's not narrative. You're not telling me the story or retelling me the story because I know the story in and out. I've been doing this for quite some time now. Okay, so write intelligibly, write in a relevant way, and you are on your way towards getting the score that you hope for, inshallah. Yeah, Hazar, you wanted to ask a question.
Yes, doctor. So I wanted to ask if you can tell us what to focus on because there are too many things to study. So can you please tell us?
The problem is that I'm not the one who sets the question. I'm only the coordinator, and I happen to also be the teacher of the course. But I'm not the one who sets the course. So telling you to focus on one thing and leave the other obviously wouldn't be doing you justice. I will be, but we can perhaps think of, excluding things. Um, I think the things that we have taken in the midterm are not going to end up commonsensically. What do you think? Do you think we will have the things that we had in the midterm?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
maybe a
very
little bit.
common. No,
Nothing?
I'm not talking about the work itself. I'm talking about the aspects or the questions
Yes.
or the themes. So while studying, you exclude those parts. If, for example, the midterm had short answers about soliloquies, for example, you don't study soliloquies. If the short answers were about what um, mystery plays or morality plays or drama in the medieval period and the comparison. You don't study this because these things are not likely to come in the final exam. See? So try to exclude the things that you have been tested on in the midterm, but you need to study the rest. And again, perhaps what makes you believe that it's overwhelming and it is too much is that you think that you have to memorize. Do you have to memorize things, yeah, Hazar?
I think I should understand more, but I
Yes,
need to. Yeah, but I need
absolutely.
to memorize some stuff for the short answers, I think.
No.
Nothing.
I mean, you need to like you said, you need to understand. You need to be familiar with what is happening. You need to have this comprehensive view of things. But memorizing word for word, do you think? We're not as we're not testing your memory, Hazar. We're not testing how good your memory is. No, this is not a pathology class or something. Okay? No, we're not
Okay,
testing
thank you.
that. So understanding is key. And then turning this understanding into nuanced and yani, synthetic analysis of things. Yeah, thank you, Hazar, for your questions. Anybody else? If you guys have questions, come to the mic. Okay, so does it mean, and normally an indicator that people are preparing for the exam and they are taking stuff seriously would be that they have questions. So perhaps you haven't started yet. Have you started, preparing for the exam? Raise your hands if you have. Right. So you guys, those who have raised their hands, you don't have any questions? Hanin, you don't have any questions?
Um,
And I
no,
remember
no.
you, listen, I, uh, I remembered you back in the day when I taught you 112. I was like checking the videos the other day, and remember when I was introducing myself the very first day, and you said that I taught you EL 112, but I didn't remember at the time. But now I
Oh, okay.
remember you very well.
Yeah, yeah, you
We
were.
were good friends, if you still remember,
Yes, yes, it was actually a
right?
very good class. Yes, true.
Yes. Mm.
I hope I have more classes with you.
Inshallah,
Um,
inshallah.
inshallah. I don't really have any questions to be honest, but are we done with the course now? Like, are we
Mm.
gonna take any? So what about
No,
Frankenstein?
no, we're not taking French. We haven't taken it
Okay.
even in spring.
Oh, okay. So all right.
You
Okay.
guys have the. I sent you the updated calendar. Go and check. Perhaps I'm forgetting something, but then no. Whenever, it's summer. Normally we reduce the portion, not make it bigger, and we haven't taken, Frankenstein for the past year or so. Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry. Abdulaziz, go ahead.
Then yeah, I'm
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
looking
go.
forward for the. But the thing is that I was wondering about, which you answered me the last time I asked you before the midterm, is about the words that are included, or the terms that we have to not memorize actually, but study. But
Mm,
if I'd have to memorize some of them, uh,
mm.
is there any way I can find the terms? Like you can send us the terms that are included that we can focus on, because there's a lot of terms we took. Some of them are I don't even know if they're included that are part of the poem, like melancholy and these words.
You said that you don't have you can never have an exhaustive list of terms, right? Whatever we drop of words and names and concepts, whatever you find in the exam is testable. So the idea of
Okay.
scaring yourself to death and thinking that you're remembering things and forgetting others, no, just take it easy. Focus on, yeah, and I wouldn't say the big picture, but because there are details that you need to also be careful about. But yeah, I guess you guys are, I mean, you're doing a good job, and you also have choices. You normally, from experience, if you have three short answer questions, two of them at least two of them So we never
Okay.
had the problem with people not knowing what the answers are. Our problems with people are with how little their answers are, and how yeah, that's this idea of littleness that we always grab it with, because um, I mean, I don't know, people are under the impression that short answers are short answers. This is literature, and literature is also about writing, is about proving something. um, So I don't think, I mean, just take it, I don't know how you study, but go over the slides, because I have given you those slides over the months that we spent together. And don't ask me to kind of collect all of them and bring them back to you, because I don't remember where they are. But that's why I'm keen on sending them whenever we finish, so that I don't forget. So you need to collect them. They are on the WhatsApp group. I have also shared with you my YouTube channel. It has all, kind of videos. Go to the playlist, and you're going to find different seasons and different versions of A230A. I have also started this was last semester, this podcast kind of thing, where I'm turning the classes into podcasts where you have people talking, and they speak better than myself, of course. They have perhaps they take my insights, but they turn it into not nicer ways of
Yes.
kind of
Those
saying it.
are these AIs? Are these AIs or
Ah,
actual
yes,
humans?
yes. No, these are inspired by my classes. Yes, these are
Oh, okay.
AIs. Hmm. So they are fun. I mean, just listen to them very in a relaxed way without stressing out. I mean, it's like listening to like a podcast or a radio thing. Just let it sink in, and you are on your way towards writing very well and knowing. I mean, we speak too much about the stuff. We have spoken long and too much and extensively about Othello and the Duchess of Malfi. And I think you know it in and out by now, right? So
Yes.
don't get bogged down by the small details. Don't stress out because دي مش بيشتغل في مفاعل نووي يعني. It's literature after all. I mean, whatever you write is you are entitled to it as long as you're writing يعني, in a sensible way, a way that reflects that you have understood and comprehended and يعني, kind of processed what we are saying. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm sure people are, yani, as we speak, sharing lists of terms and concepts. I never encouraged my students to do that because, like I said, the list is inexhaustible. You have so many terms. Just focus on the terms that are relevant to the works, because sometimes you find terms that, yeah, they can be literature, but perhaps out of our scope. And again, it's why do we have them, those out of scope things? Because everybody is volunteering a list. Everybody is a curator of the course, if you like, coming up with ideas from here and there, and oh, it's should be simpler than that, inshallah. Yeah, questions, answers. Okay, right. Should we start? I don't intend to revisit stuff like that. That can be very boring, right? Um, right. Let's talk about the time periods and then let's talk about the ideas. We started off with this comparison between the Middle Ages, the medieval period, and the early modern times, otherwise known as the Renaissance. And of course, we spoke about the difference or the big difference between the two time periods. And we spoke about how this is reflected in literature. Spoke about the literature of the time of the medieval period or the Middle Ages as being very didactic, teaching lessons, and they are for the most part moral and religious. Very straightforward. The characters are types. They don't have a capacity for change because they simply are qualities and abstract embodiments of virtues and vices. Very straightforward and very naive, if you like. And we spoke about two types of plays that were, um, kind of active at the time. We spoke about the morality play and the mystery plays. When we talk about the mystery plays, we talk about those kinds of plays that were developed, written perhaps, and staged by the guilds or the professional syndications and associations, couplers, carpenters. And again, they focus on whatever is moral, whatever is didactic, whatever gives a moral lesson. And then we have another type of drama, which what we refer to as morality plays. And the title is very, or the label is very significant. We're saying morality, which means that they, at the core of those kinds of plays, there is talk about morality, positive and negative. Morality, when we talk about generosity, kindness, uh, love, all those kinds of things. And minus when we talk about greed, when we talk about um, miserliness, when we talk about avarice, when we talk about the seven deadly sins. Christianity is known for its seven deadly sins: pride, being arrogant and proud. So those in morality plays those um, qualities, the good and the bad, compete. They are given human embodiment and they compete. And of course, the good forces will have to win eventually. And this seems to be the moral of every morality play, that the good has to win over the bad or the evil. So see how simplistic those kinds of plays were. Again, you're talking about a time when levels of illiteracy were soaring. We're talking about a time when there was no printing press yet, and of course, having a book was such a big deal. Having a book, buying a book. So it's the dark ages in Europe, where again the focus is on the church and what the church can do for people. It was also feudal. I mean, the feudal system where you normally have a lord, an owner of lands, and you have the majority of people working for him in a serf kind of system where people are like slaves. So obviously a system like that, an economic system like that wouldn't, yield good results. So people are illiterate. They are perhaps focused on making, you know, the best of a bad job, if you like, making ends meet. It was a kind of subsistence kind of life. You have so little. So ambitions about education and about learning and all those abstract ideas obviously didn't exist for people who were mostly poor. So this was the atmosphere in the Middle Ages, and then we had the transition to the early modern times, or the Renaissance or Renaissance, where we have a revival. This was perhaps in the 13th century and started in Italy, where people started to think of, um, change, because they had been so taken for granted, they had been so downtrodden, and they started to think that perhaps we need to give other discourses a chance. So it doesn't have to be the discourse of religion and full stop. Mm, Everything should be interpreted through the lens of religion. Religion is good and everything, but obviously there is more to life than just religion. This is what they started to discover. So people started to be open to ideas I'm sure they had chance to look around them, and they saw the Muslims and the Arabs in the Middle Ages, where we were at the peak of civilization, started to imitate and copy us. So they started to change. And the first thing that they thought they should do was to skip the Middle Ages with all its darkness and go all the way back to classical learning, to the Greeks and the Romans, because there were, make no mistake about it, great civilizations back in the time during the Greeks and the Romans before the Christian era. It is heathen, yes. It is pagan, that's fine. But it was, those people were highly educated, they were highly learned. We still remember with love and interest and passion, people like Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, and their philosophies and their philosophical ramblings about life, about existence, and who are we and why we're here and stuff like that. So the Europeans in the 13th century started to look back, and they started to dig deep into prehistory, where the Greeks and the Romans are. They learned a great deal. That's why we call it revival. So you're reviving something. You're giving a lease of life to something that is already morbid and dead, which was Greek and Roman learning. So they went as far as those eras, and they got inspired by them and started to change. They started to be open to learning, to uh, civilization and society. So religion was there, but it wasn't monopolizing the talk. It wasn't. Uh, it was an aspect of life, and they started to also explore the world, to go beyond their confines and borders in Europe. They went all the way to the Americas. They went all the way to India, the Indian subcontinent, um, and they started to learn from other people. They started to trade with other people. They changed beyond recognition. We're also
More like
focused on what
colonized.
they, you mean they colonized? They were colonizers for the most part, yes. So I mean, and it was during the time, it was you either colonize or you get colonized. So if you cannot colonize, so you get colonized, and this is exactly what happens. Um, so we're perhaps focused on what kind of literature we had in the early modern times, in the Renaissance, and we said that of all the art forms, of all the literary forms that we have drama and plays. Plays were the form and the genre of choice, and the focus was on drama. Now, of course, there was poetry, because poetry is as old as humanity. Sometimes you have those ebbs and flows, and during the time, the focus was not on uh, poetry; it was on drama. During the time, you had this patronage system where you would have people in government, people in high places, perhaps merchants and business people. They were funding those kinds of plays, because to stage a play was a big deal financially, and playwrights were not as rich as they are now. So they wouldn't be able to kind of fund a play. So they would need the patrons. They would need the patronage of the government, the royal family, business people. And this is perhaps why you would notice that those plays were also didactic a little bit, not very direct, but they give you a lesson. You have some takeaways, things that you're not likely to miss, like the idea of order, like the idea of established order, like the idea of hierarchy. If you have noticed in the plays that we have done, for all the love that we have for the main characters, they die and very tragically. And this is a message in and of itself. The writer is trying to tell us in an indirect way that what they did was wrong. They took the wrong course. They should have changed course in the middle, but they didn't. Othello and Desdemona insisted that they get married regardless, irrespective of their different colors, different skins, different races. And what happened to them? They got killed, or perhaps they killed you know how it happened. So obviously, this was a very strong message. Never mess with um, the hierarchy. If you're born poor, you stay poor. If you're born black, you stay black. Yeah, there is obviously nothing wrong with getting married, but get married from within or to people from within your own rank. Okay? This seems to be the message in Othello, and that there was also clear indications that what they did was not the right thing. And then we had a different kind of transgression against established order by the Duchess. And look at what happened to her. Perhaps she had to suffer and she has to be tormented because uh, she was also a queen, a sitting queen, right? And what happened was not, excuse me, was not expected of her. That's why she had to she dies and gets killed. Again, this is a takeaway. This is a message for the people of the time. Yeah, we love the Duchess. We love her vibes. We love her daring nature. And remember what we said about her. She's a cultural voyager, whatever that means. But what happened to her? She got killed. Again, the message is clear. What you're doing is or was wrong. Um, so again, it's plays that we're doing in the Elizabethan time, and it's plays that we're normally doing in uh, where the setting is normally not England, and this is very significant. And in spite of the fact that the plays are about English concepts and ideas, they are never set in England or London. Again, in order to avoid persecution, because there is going to be a level of social commentary, of political commentary. So in order to avoid being asked as why you are perhaps inciting people against the government by saying this or that, I would say, yeah, that the play is set in Venice or Malfi, and the characters are Italian or African, They have nothing to do with England. So this was meant, this was very important.
Doctor,
Yeah, go ahead.
I also think that there's a different perspective to these stories. It's one that if we just look at the pure side, like the Duchess and Othello and Desdemona, there's also the evil side, and we can define pathological people out of them. Like, for example, Iago and the brothers, how these disorders developed and destructed, and was a bit of well, it wasn't a bit, it was very corruptive. So we can see that they can study how people brains, how they react to these things. Like also in Candid, there's this part of the society where we're determined to corrupt. Even in Wordsworth, when he wrote about how he just wanted to be alone, far away from the society, which was more materialistic and thriving to, I don't know which part. They weren't corruptive, but they were a bit different than what he wanted. So there's another side to the story also, the evil side. Maybe the study of these characters is also, it made the literature become actually literature, because this side was important. People always like to look to the evil side of the story. Does that
Yeah,
make any sense?
yeah, it does. Remember what we said, for example, about Othello, and whether what happened was self-inflicted or it was all Iago's agency and what Iago did. So there will always be this debate about the characters and whether their motivations are what they say they are. You appreciate Othello for his deeds and for his love for Desdemona, and this romantic kind of love, a black guy falling in love with a white girl. This is very romantic, very nice, transcending all racial barriers. But you still need to think of them as individuals. Think of Othello. Is he that good? Or perhaps this is a make-believe. Perhaps these are all pretensions, and when he was put to the test, he couldn't stand the test. I mean, he got back to his perhaps manly nature as a man. I'm talking from perhaps a feminist perspective. He was ready to accept what Iago was insinuating about his wife, even though she left everything behind for him. So the challenge is that it's so complicated and intertwined. Things, the good and the bad, are so intertwined together, and they are so mixed together that to take a character out and say this is purely good or this is purely evil would be very simplistic. The plays are about established order, but of course they are
Yeah, but in
also
life, there's always
about
good or evil.
individuals. Well, it's not that simple. I mean, even we now talk about circumstance. We now talk about people going out of, sometimes you behave against your nature um, because of the pressures of life. remember what happened to Othello? Othello, for example, he killed his wife, and the very next second, he felt that he did something wrong. So he came back to his good nature. So again, how would you judge him? Would you say that he is a killer and full stop? Or would you think of what he did before and what even afterwards? I mean, the idea of him, feeling guilty and deciding to kill himself is also amazing. You you need to kind of stop and think. This is good. I mean, the idea that you acknowledge, because it's very difficult. Human beings are very proud, and sometimes you don't acknowledge that you have made a mistake. So what did he do? I mean, he realized that he was mistaken, and the next thing he did was that he committed suicide. Of course, we're against the idea of people taking their own lives, and but this is perhaps besides the point, right? It's so nuanced.
Yes, it is.
It's
But
so, yeah, go ahead.
but still, the part of the story there is also always the even in nowadays films, and there's always the hero, and then there's always the villains. The villains could have like those comics, for example. There's always the villain, but when we look at the villain's life and his background, we realize that he's been through a lot for him to become a villain. It wasn't easy. It wasn't an easy life. He turned out to be a villain for a reason. Still, Othello in the story is not really pure, but probably there's part inside the human's body where evil beats pure, the pure side of the human. He might have been evil from the get-go, but then later on, or maybe he was pure, then he turned into evil and then pure. Any person who could reach the ability to kill without knowing is not a pure person. And without knowing facts and being very sure that this person is very bad, that person is not pure. That person is evil, no matter how much we try to make him pure. Because killing is not something easy. To reach someone and kill someone for any cause is not something okay. Yet he killed, and then he regretted, and then he killed himself. So you didn't fix anything. You killed yourself. That's even worse. So what I'm trying to say is that in literature, I believe that there is always the side of studying the human complex, yani in this time, because it affected the politics later on. It's a circle, yani like the brother of the Duchess. What was his name? The cardinal. Not not this one.
Let
The
me,
other one.
Ferdinand.
Ferdinand. Yeah,
Mm.
he had a disorder later on. It turns out that this person is actually mentally unstable. So this is also a study to human brain, that we understand that there's these disorders in people, not only in the core, the nafs. It's also there's people who react on that. Part of, I think, philosophy.
Yeah. Literature is about all of that. Perhaps the difference between literature and philosophy is, I mean, this is what they say. I mean, um, literature mystifies things, makes them mysterious because of the entanglements and all those things, contradictory things that you're talking about when we talk about human nature. And philosophy clarifies, or at least attempts or tries to clarify things. So literature is this. I mean, it's the beauty of literature, unlike life itself, is that you can see the human being, the whole of the human being in front of your eyes. You're given glimpses into his inner psyche. You get to know the trajectory of his life, how he started and how he ended. But life, perhaps you're going to see me perhaps this semester and I am no more. I go my way, or you go your way, for example. You don't know what happens with me. I may be good now, and perhaps in a year or two, you see my face or my photo in the newspaper, and they say that I killed my wife, or I don't know whom. I mean, in literature, we're given the whole thing. In life, people. So, how many people have you met? Have you encountered in the street? You don't know what will happen to them the next minute, and they don't know what will happen to you in the next minute. This is perhaps what makes literature different. With literature, you're able to learn a lesson also, because you see the whole trajectory of the characters, but you don't have a chance to do that in real life. Um, Again, let's go back to the literature of the time. I'm talking about the early modern times, the Elizabethan and the Jacobean times. And again, the focus would be on presenting those examples of transgression, people going against the established order, and having people polarized over them, people like them and people hate them. And again, you would have this fight between conservatives and liberals. And you would think of Othello and Desdemona as perhaps providing an example of how we're moving towards more liberalism in thought, and people are starting to accept the idea of merit, for example, the idea that to be, you don't have to inherit a title, or you don't have to inherit money to secure perhaps a good job and to get married to the one that you love. Marriage at the time, if you still remember, was a marriage of convenience, was a marriage, it was a business deal between families. Okay, and the bride and the bridegroom had no say in it. People decide for them. Again, perhaps when we saw Othello and Desdemona, you know, getting married or deciding to get married, obviously this may be an indication that change and change started back then, and now we see it in Western societies when we talk about freedom of speech, when we talk about interracial marriages, when we talk about democracy, and stuff like that. Again, that happened too with the Duchess, and perhaps we're seeing for the first time a woman asking a man to get married to her, and she's the one who takes all the initiatives, and she defends him, she defends their marriage, she stands against her family and her brothers. Uh, and remember what we said about her, that she's perhaps the first uh, uh, woman in Renaissance drama who is featured and presented as such, very valiant, very courageous, very noble. And again, remember what we did and what we said about Act 5 in the play, when all the other characters will die. But what kind of death? If you compare how they died and how she died, and keep saying that her death in Act 4 was very noble. She was given the opportunity and the space to talk about God, to talk about religion, to talk about politics, to talk about her royal family. And what she said was amazing. Nuggets of wisdom. When you go to those other guys, their death were very mean and very base. each in his own way. It was all mistaken identities, people killing each other by mistake. It was a farce, a bloody farce, if you remember. Um, so again, the Duchess of Malfi and the and Othello are also written against the framework that we refer to as tragedy. We said that tragedy is the most appropriate way of presenting those agonies and those suffering. And when we spoke about tragedies, we said that we have Shakespearean tragedies and Greek tragedies, and the focus is on Shakespearean tragedies, where um, you have the trajectory of the tragic hero moving from fortune to misfortune, from fortune to adversity, and his or her life changes dramatically towards the end of the play, and he or she has to die tragically. Remember, what triggers all of that is a flaw or a weakness within the character. Again, it can be pride, it can be, um, you know, poor judgment, it can be rashness, it can be all of that or none of that. So there has to be a flow within the soul and the mind of the character that would bring about his downfall eventually. Again, when we spoke about Othello, we spoke about him perhaps being egoistic, being self-dramatizing, wanting people to talk about him all the time, whether good or bad. So he was creating situations where people, if they cannot praise him, they they can pity him. Remember this kind of debate between critics. You have on the one side A.C. Bradley and Wilson Knight talking very favorably and very lovingly about the character of Othello and making a victim of him. And on the other hand, you would have Leaves and T.S. Eliot saying very bad things about Othello, accusing him of, willing it, if you like, of accusing him of creating situations where he would elicit uh, our praise, and if not, our pity, and how he is totally responsible for what happened. Um, so we have that debate about those characters. What else did we say about Othello and the Duchess of Malfi? We also spoke about the conventions of the revenge tragedy, because both of them are revenge tragedies. And we said that, yeah, together with the obvious, and the obvious is having blood and bloodshed and people slaughtering and killing each other, but this is only a feature. The other features have to do with, you know, having sometimes plays within plays, having dumb shows, having tools like poison, Bibles, and swords, um, um, having the character of the malcontent. The malcontent is very important. And we have a character who is not like any other character. He's not on top of the social ladder. He is lower class, and he works in the court, and he bears witness to the corruption of the court. He's not happy about it. and whenever possible, he lashes out against his corruption in the soliloquy after the other. And Busola is a very good example of that. Uh, so these are also uh, um, among the features of the revenge tragedy. Um, on the level of characters, there is always this comparison between, which we have seen, I think, in the midterm, this comparison between women characters, Desdemona uh, and the Duchess, and unfortunately, not so many people were able to answer this question very well. Um, again, if we talk about female characters, we need to see how they were perceived during the time. There was a great deal of misogyny, women hating at the time. Again, you can be a great lover and a great husband, but when you are tested, you gush out your misogyny against women. And this is what happened with Othello. This is what happened with the two brothers in the Duchess of Malfi. When tested, they failed miserably and spectacularly when it comes to how they see women. They objectify women. They think of women in uh, animalistic terms. We wouldn't blame Iago. At least Iago was very frank and was very honest in his opinions, even if those opinions were bad and everything. But to have Othello using his language at one point and thinking the worst of Desdemona, obviously this is misogyny, but it was hidden. It was not given the opportunity to appear. When it was given the opportunity, it appeared, like you have seen. And again, look at how the two brothers were thinking of their uh, sister and the idea of remarrying because she is a woman. And amazing, amazing in a negative way, of course. So these are things that you need to think about every time. Um, yeah, I mean the plays come to mind. Then there is a great deal that we can talk about, and if we start talking about them, we're not likely to stop. And there is a great deal of debate around them, the debates that we have seen. And let's take a 10-minute break, and then when we come back, if you guys have any questions, we can answer them and then call it a night, because I intend to have one more revision class where I will talk about Candide and the Romantics. So I'll see you in 10 minutes, inshallah.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, doctor.
Yeah. Okay. So if you guys have any questions about what we've been saying, if you have any queries, I shared all the assessment, the pre-final assessments with you. Your grades, everything is on SIS, and I'm hopeful that you have seen them, right? I'm talking about the NTA, I'm talking about quiz 1 and 2 combined. I'm talking about the attendance and participation and everything. And then we'll go to the final exam. Okay? The final exam is out of 50, as you know, and in order for you to pass, you have to score at least 20 in the final exam, regardless of what you have scored before the final, which means that sometimes we have people who scored like 50 or 51, but they still fail because their final is less than 20 out of 50. Make sure you do well in the final exam, because the final exam makes or breaks. I think somebody was raising his or her hand. Yeah. Shams, you wanted to say something?
No, doctor.
Okay. Okay. Right. Let's agree on one final revision class in which we cover Candide and the Romantics. When do you think is convenient for you? Still have until Monday next week. Would you like it soon, or perhaps we wait until it's like a day before the final? Would it be convenient if we meet next Sunday and the exam is the day after, or you want your space, you want time to reflect, and we do it some other day, I mean prior or before? What do you think? Should it be soon or a day before the exam?
I personally don't mind any
I
time. It's
think
fine.
soon is better.
You mean, okay. So how soon? I mean, I think tomorrow would be too soon, right? How about
Yes.
Wednesday?
Yes. Okay.
Wednesday at what
Wednesday.
time?
But I hope it's
Yeah.
not in the morning.
No, we can agree on mutually convenient time. So when is convenient for you? Wednesday.
Maybe same
Well,
time at 6 or 4 or 5.
yeah, let's make it 4. 4?
Okay, 4 is good.
Yes.
Yeah, 4, yes. Okay. So can somebody remind me like Tuesday and also write it on the WhatsApp group for everyone? And obviously we're bigger in number than that. And prepare so that we can also have something to discuss. Prepare the 2 plays and what we spoke about, and we can talk about that, and of course focus more on Candide and the romantics inshallah. طيب, until then I wish you all the best. نشوفكم على خير إن شاء الله. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
Bye.